Welcome back to another episode of The Next Step, the podcast where we explore what it means to move forward after limb loss. I'm your host, Kevin Gray, a bilateral amputee myself, and I'm honored to share today's conversation with a guest who truly understands what it means to rebuild not just the body, but the spirit. Laura's story is unlike any other. A devastating motorcycle accident led to the loss of her leg, years of surgeries, and eventually the amputation of her second leg. But this is not a story of despair. It's a story of profound healing. Laura is now a spiritual counselor, a public speaker, and a guide to others navigating loss. She believes and proves through her life that you can have a wonderful life regardless of how your circumstances turn out if you are willing to do the inner work. Laura, thanks for being here. Really looking forward to talking to you today.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you for doing this.
Great. So you're based in Long Island. I don't know what the weather's like in New York, but it's gorgeous here in Toronto. How is it?
Beautiful day here. Beautiful. Sun is shining, 60
Good.
degrees. It's beautiful.
Excellent. And now, the last time we talked, it's been few weeks, and you mentioned that you were a spiritual counselor practice. You have a spiritual counselor practice focused on emotional and spiritual healing. And you're a real advocate for that in terms of, tying that into rehabilitation. So it's not just a physical thing, but it's also a spiritual thing. Can you comment on that, how you work with clients?
Absolutely. And it all comes through my own experience. So for me, there was a lot of people helping me physically, right? And I feel like a lot of times, most of the time, I won't say all the time, we're concentrating on the physical healing, the physical healing, the physical healing. But for me, the mental, emotional, and spiritual was even harder, because even when something healed, I was still left with, I'm going to say, the loss of my life, or
Yeah.
the life that I once knew. So how do I heal that broken heart? And for me, really, the biggest question, because I already was on a spiritual journey, was why? Why did this happen?
Yeah, and
That was a big one for me.
it's something you don't really answer, right? Like I know when I went through this, and I still go through this today, it's not even like you get through it, a spiritual healing. It's constant. I don't know what life would look like when I lost my legs, and I didn't know, would I be working again? Could I walk into a restaurant? All those different things, some of them being physical, but mentally, it really, really played a game in my head, sort of thing. And I still struggle with that a little bit. So you survived a tragic motorcycle accident. That's what happened here. And it was really a near-death experience. You underwent limb salvage surgery, and you had an external fixator and muscle flap transfer. We'll talk about those in just a minute. But later you chose to amputate your leg after 12 years of complications, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and then, so just to set the stage here before we get into it, you're a bilateral amputee, like myself. You've lost your left leg above the knee from the motorcycle accident, and then the right knee below the knee due to infection and complications.
Actually, I did have an infection, but that's not why I lost the leg. That's not why I chose to amputate.
Oh, okay.
That
Um,
wasn't the cause of it.
what was the cause of it? What made you in the second leg?
So I basically had a knee and a foot and like strings in between.
Oh,
And I actually grew a leg. They took my latissimus muscle, they made a calf, and I had this external fixator and a wrench that you would use on a car. And I turned these screws, and the bones grew together.
wow.
And yeah, it was an amazing, excruciating, I'm going to say magical process, because what the body can do is amazing. But I had one surgery after another, after another, after another, to try to get out of pain. And it was like, let's try this will work. Let's try that will work. And the last surgery I had was ankle fusion. And it
Right.
was like, let's just get rid of the ankle and it'll be anyway. So I was never able to get out of pain. So after 12 years, I elected to amputate
Yeah, and
below the
pain,
knee.
pain just, you can't live, you can't think when you're in pain. You can't walk physically when you're in pain. Yeah, I've heard this story from a lot of people where, once they've lost their leg, once they make that decision and they take the leg, then the pain goes away, their life gets better, right? So you're not new to that story, that's for sure, because I've heard it many times. Um, so let's now that we've kind of set the stage, Laura, I want to back up and just start right from the beginning. And I want to ask you, before you had this accident, what was life like before that?
Life was amazing as it is today, but in a different way. I was a hairstylist. I had a very successful, passionate career. I, lived in a beautiful house, and I was riding my motorcycle across the country. I was on a spiritual journey already, and I often say it was the perfect day. I was on my brand new street glide and listening to some amazing music on my way to vacation, and smush. I got smushed.
Well, it sounds like an amazing life, but that day that you had the accident, you kind of describe it as the best day of your life. Why did you describe it that way? Like what happened?
For me, riding a motorcycle, there's so many aspects of it. It's being one with nature, it's the freedom, it's the power, it's the speed. I love music. Music to me is like a drug. Pardon, I hope that's not offensive to anybody, but it can instantly change my mood.
Absolutely.
And I was listening to, I don't remember, pardon me, who wrote the song, but I was listening to the song called It's a Great Day to Be Alive by
Ah,
Travis Tritt. He's not the person that wrote it, but I was listening to that version.
yeah.
And it's talking about being sober and being on a motorcycle and this wonderful feeling. And I was listening to the song over and over and over and over again. And I just had just this sense of like, life has never been better.
Yeah.
And, this deep, deep, deep feeling of life has never been better. Going to a
Got
beautiful
it.
place. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. It's funny how music, really ties your life together. Like it does change your mood. It's interesting you said that. My son is a musician, and so I've had music in my life all my life. Like from the time he was, 5 years old, he started to play the guitar. So he's 38 now, and I get to watch him on stage, and he's doing quite successful. But music really just it changes you everything about you. You can tie experiences to it. I know what I was doing on certain days, like from high school right to college to different parts of my life. I remember music being part of that. So
Yeah, you hear a song, it brings you right back.
yeah, it brings you right back. So you experienced what many describe as a near-death experience. I think that's what you told me. Can you share what that moment was like? Why was it a near-death experience?
Well, I find it interesting that they call it a near death experience because I believe that I did die, but I came back. So for me, I remember laying on the ground and looking up. And if you're in my office, you could see that picture
Oh
of this
yeah, yeah.
sun coming through. When people talk about that white light experience, for me, it was the sun. And it was the most, I use the word blinding, but blinding sounds painful. It was the brightest, most loving, peaceful, calm, warm embrace I have ever felt in my entire life. And I was at peace. Although, my legs were mangled and I was bleeding to death. So, you know, I, I wasn't done. So here I am. you know.
Laura, uh, people have told me it's like almost like an out of body experience. Did you have that? Um,
It's that's very interesting question because I have been actually thinking about that a little bit late as of late, and I've been having some conversation about it. Often people talk about how they are rise above their body and they look down. I
yeah.
believe that that did not happen for me because I believe it was a protection because I did not want to see what my body looked like.
Right, right.
I did not want to see what my legs looked like.
Yeah,
It was a gruesome image. So I believe I did not have that experience as
yeah.
a protection.
Listen, you lost one of your legs immediately in the accident, and the other one was just completely destroyed. You can't see that during this experience and whatnot, but they rush you to the hospital. Tell me what the initial hospital experience was like.
Well, I have no memory of. I remember the firemen or the I remember walkie-talkies. I remember the sound of boots, but I have no memory of being put on a gurney or an ambulance ride. I know nothing about any of that. The next thing I remember, and whether that was because I was gone or I don't know, but the next thing that I remember was being in extreme pain and asking for something to try to get me out of pain, and they couldn't give me any more than they had given me. But I was trying to call my friend, and I couldn't get the last two digits of our phone number right. So they were just trying to contact a family member, I guess for them for guidance or what do you want us to
Yeah,
do because I
yeah,
couldn't make a decision. But yeah,
right.
they were trying to contact. So they were able to contact my sister, who was in Lake George, which is where I was headed to. She was waiting for me. So
Oh,
yeah.
good. Well, geez. So you had to go many surgeries to kind of salvage the legs, but they didn't work. It took like 12 years, I think you said. Um, what really made you decide like this is it? I'm going to take the leg. I need to move forward.
It was not an easy decision, and part of it was, because I had tried so hard and had done so many things and so many surgeries and put so much time and effort. It's like after all that, you're just going to cut it off.
Right.
Um, and, I prayed about it a lot. I spoke to a lot of people. You know, Before I even made the decision to do the ankle fusion, um, I said to my is it time to amputate? And he
Right.
said, no, let's try ankle fusion. And for me, I kind of felt like, you know, but anyway, I tried and
Right.
it did not work.
Yeah.
So, and I believe that for me, the fact that it was going to be below the knee made the decision easier.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. I know I'm still scared that I might lose my leg above the knee if you get infections, you get complications. So I watch everything. I'm sure you do too. But yeah, like above the knee is so much harder to walk, get around, and the prosthetics larger, it doesn't bend, and there's a lot to it, right? So we're grateful that yeah, it's below the knee. It's weird, eh? You say, I'm really grateful that somebody took my leg below the knee. It's hard to say sometimes, right?
Yes, but what really sticks out is I am so grateful that I was already an above knee amputee, and
Right,
then went to a below knee. Had
right.
I had this vision of being an amputee from below the knee, going to an above, I think it would have been a much harder. This was like, I got a knee. It's not that big a deal. I'm just missing something to land on. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I experienced it.
Are you up and walking quite a bit now? I forget.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
walking. I'm riding my motorcycle. I'm
yeah.
driving. I'm living totally.
Yeah, so life's not over when you have an amputation. A lot of people, I know when I had mine, I was like, now what? I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm really scared. And once you get through it and you start challenging yourself, it's amazing what we can really do and how resilient we are.
Yeah, life is better than ever.
Another challenge in your life came. which is the second amputation, and that was only in 2023. So not that long ago, a few years now.
No, 20 in 20 in 2022 I had osseointegration.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so my 2007 was my accident. 2019, I elected to amputate the right leg, and then in 2022, I had osseointegration on the above knee side, the original amputation.
Okay, okay. I didn't know that. And so tell us a little bit about that. Some folks may not even have heard of it. Um, how is it going after that surgery?
So, osseointegration is a bone anchored prosthesis. So, I have a an implant sticking out of my femur, sticking out of my skin, and my prosthesis attaches directly to it. So, when I move my femur, my prosthetic moves, as opposed to it's just moving inside of a socket and nothing's happening. So I don't have to wear a socket anymore, which is, the difference for me in an above knee socket and a below knee socket is completely different experience. And I wasn't necessarily, I have had painful sockets, but since my new prosthetist, my sockets weren't painful, but I was uncomfortable from the moment I put it on till the
Yeah,
moment I took it off.
really? Wow.
Yes.
Just not painful, but just uncomfortable. Hmm.
Well,
Um,
they can be painful if they're not fitted properly.
yeah, yeah.
But it was, it's a much, this is much easier,
Do you
much easier.
feel secure, more secure, uh, um, with
Definitely more secure.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you would recommend it to people?
I would not recommend it. I think people have to do their own research and pray about it and see what
Yeah,
if it's right for them.
got it.
It was the right decision for me. I am experiencing some pain, which has been difficult, but I am not. I am still grateful that I made that decision.
Okay.
But yeah, each person has to decide for themselves.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. I kind of a silly question, isn't it? You can't really recommend, hey, take your leg or do these operations. You have to think through if it's right for you. Listen, you talked a little bit earlier about healing beyond the physical, and what you meant by that is your emotions, your mental, your spiritual healing. Um, that often gets overlooked in the amputee community, right? So can you just describe that again? Like what does it really mean to heal spiritually, emotionally, mentally?
For me, right? Because I not only, guide people to spiritual emotional healing, but I'm able to do that because I've experienced it myself.
Right.
So for me, my biggest question, laying in a hospital bed in my living room for years, was why? Like, why did this accident happen? And people would say things like, oh, everything happens for a reason, and God didn't bring you this far to drop you on your head, and nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Or they give us all these, you know answers that are trying to make us feel better, but it actually made me feel worse. So for me, um, you know not only did I have to mourn the loss of my leg, but I had to mourn the loss of my life and the life that I thought was ahead of me, the life
Right.
that I was living. I was a competitive ballroom dancer. I was a marathon runner. I was very, very, very athletic. How am I ever going to live life again? I remember asking, like, will I be able to get married? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So talking to somebody about all of these things, and real for me, it was about my belief system. And like I said, like, the real question for me was, like, why did this happen to me?
Yeah.
If I had stopped at that stop sign 1 second longer, if I didn't do get whatever it is, if I didn't do this or that, why didn't the car miss me? All of those things. So I had to come to a place of figuring out this belief system for myself in order for me to be peaceful, to be grateful. Today I really do believe that, and this is after 20 years or 18 years of since my accident almost, and 20 years or 30 years of a spiritual journey. Like, I really do believe that the legs that I was born with could not help heal the world the way my prosthetic legs are. So not even coming to a place of acceptance, but of gratitude.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I'm really putting some thought into that because I think that is a theme that I've heard from some people, and I don't think they put it the way you have as being spiritual healing and emotional healing, but I find that people tell me it's changed my perspective of life. I treat people differently. Get up in the morning and I appreciate and have gratefulness for different things. So I think some people go through this, but I don't think there's a focus on it. And I think there should be, like you're saying, because if we don't heal inside, we don't ask those questions, why did this happen to me? It becomes a trauma that stays with us forever. And I don't know that you'll ever get to the answer of why it really happened, but you know better than I do. But I ask that question still today, like, why did this happen to me? And how come it doesn't happen to other people? Like, I'm diabetic, and there's not one person in my family that has diabetes. So these questions I keep saying to myself, why? Why? What did I do wrong? Right? But that's interesting, and I really appreciate your perspective, Laura. Um, you
Yeah,
are
can I just add, like, it has been my experience both professionally and personally that you cannot go through something as traumatic and life altering.
right,
Whether it's a cancer diagnosis, a limb loss, a paralysis, you can't go through something like that and be the same person you were.
right.
It changes you on a cellular level. You have to have new skills and new belief systems to understand and to make some kind of sense of life.
It sounds,
So
yeah,
so that gratitude and a deeper level, I thought about, like, would we be sitting here if
right,
I didn't experience what I did and you didn't? We would not ever be
right,
experiencing this.
right. And I'm glad we met through this. Like we've had some great conversations. You're a wonderful person. You know what, Laura? I think I might have to book a couple sessions with you to get through
That
all this.
it makes it, it makes a difference,
Now
and
you're
I would be honored.
Oh, good. So you're open to talking about this. Yeah, we talked about this in advance, but you're a recovering alcoholic, and you kind of went through I guess it's 12-step program that we all talk about in AA. You went through that. How did that shape your journey through limb loss? How did you apply that to your limb loss journey?
Well, I introduced myself as a recovered alcoholic, not recovering, because I do not suffer from alcoholism any longer.
Right. Okay.
And the 12 steps, I'm not I don't do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous. This is, my journey. Um, but it is a design for living that solves all your problems.
Okay.
And the 12 steps is a spiritual way of life. And it has given me a design for living, giving me the power, giving me the ability to help other people. And along with helping other people, it helps myself. And it is definitely the most, somebody asked me a question about, what was the most powerful thing that ever happened to you in your life, or the most impactful. And
Mhm.
I had to really think about it. You would think losing your legs would be it, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's getting sober, because in
Uh,
getting sober and having this design for living enabled me to survive not even survive, thrive
Yeah.
my accident and limb loss through that.
Yeah, I can relate to that because I had a bit of a drinking problem myself. And over the years, I was one of those guys that would go out Thursday, Friday nights, and meet at the bar after work and, drink too much sometimes. And that really, really impacted my life when I look back on it now. And I'm so glad that I haven't drank in over, I think, 10 years now and haven't touched a drop, don't have an interest to drink anymore. But those 10 years are some of the best years I've had in my life living sober, meeting new people and how I treat people. And it's just a different way of living and a better way of living. So I'm congratulations on your recovery and I'm happy that you did. And yeah, that's wonderful.
I've been sober since 2005, so it's
Yeah.
been 20 years, and for me it was more so again about my thinking, right? And alcohol was kind of just a symptom. It's my thinking, and that's what the steps enabled me to do, was to change my life.
You said something really beautiful the last time we talked. Your prosthetic legs may be helping you to heal in ways that your original legs couldn't. You just kind of alluded to that, but I'm wondering if you could expand on that. Like, how did it help you, really, really get to who you are today?
So because I have had so many surgeries for the last 18 years, my last surgery was November 7th, 2024. So we're just, what, November, December, January, February, March. We're about 6 months away from that. So my first surgery was 2007. My last surgery was 2024, and I could not even tell you how many were in between. So it's kind of been like, have a surgery, heal, start walking, something hurts, okay, have another surgery, not walking, heal, start walking. So I kind of walk, don't walk, walk, don't walk, walk, don't walk, with a lot of not walking in there. And when you sit for that long, again, I could not, I had to go deeper. And I had to, when you sit, what happens? You start to feel. That's why people don't like to sit, because they start to feel. And what do I do with all these emotions? What do I do with all of this? I forgot the question, but, and am I going in the right direction? I don't even remember what
Yeah.
the question
Yeah,
was.
it's basically so you described that, when you had legs, you felt one way, but when you lost your legs, it changed your life to in better ways, like you life will never feel normal, I think you said.
Well, it's a new normal,
It's a new,
right? And it's,
yeah,
if you compare me, which I don't compare, but to like somebody who has legs, it's a completely different, I broke my arm and my wrist about a year ago, actually.
okay.
And my wife was on vacation, so my friends had to come to my house in the morning and help me get in the shower, help me put my legs on, put my bra on, put my deodorant on. And they could not believe how much energy all
Oh,
of this took. And for me, it's just regular. It's just what I
yeah,
do,
yeah,
right? So I think the question I got diluted or diverted, but you know, so I'm also a licensed social worker, right?
right.
And I practice spiritual counseling because I can bring what has happened in my life and use it to help somebody else. And if I was to talk to you about an amputee because I read all this information in a book, you would not want to talk to me, because
Got it. Yeah,
I have no idea what you're experiencing.
yeah,
So I believe that because of everything that I have been through, sobriety, death,
right.
and I don't mean my own, I'm talking about, family members, everything that I've experienced, I can bring all of that into my spiritual counseling practice. So
Yeah,
if my legs give me a little bit more grit, and
yeah.
you'll listen to me a little bit, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because, and it can be applied to anybody that comes into your office as a client. Like if I got diagnosed with cancer, I have those same sort of questions like, now what? My life has changed, and will people stay with me? I'm married. Like, do I want to put them through that? What's recovery look like? You get so wrapped up in yourself, and trying to understand the whys and how you're going to move forward, that spiritual helping that you're talking about can really let that go and let you move forward. Is that kind of a summary of what you're saying?
Yeah, and I would say heartbreak is heartbreak. It doesn't matter what it's from. And people might get deterred by this word spiritual, right? But even faith, but it's just your belief system.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
even if we just replace the word spiritual with your belief system,
yeah,
because the world is what you think it is. So if your belief system is fill in the blank, that's what you're going to experience.
yeah.
So it's challenging and getting in touch with some people don't even know what their belief system is,
Right.
right? So it's learning all of that about yourself
Yeah.
and
Okay.
learning that there are options that I can actually think differently. I didn't know that was it's like, well, this is just the way I am, right?
Yeah.
My whole family's like this. It's
Yeah.
generational, what you know what I mean, whatever, but that we can change.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Listen, so let's say you walk into a hospital, you walk into somebody's hospital room and they've just lost or leg or an arm or they're scheduled for surgery. They have those questions like, will I ever love again? Will I ever feel normal again? Will I ever walk again? Will I ever work again? What would you want to say to that person in that moment?
Usually, the first thing I say to people is, I have an amazing life. And I never thought that I would have an amazing life again.
Mhm.
So, you may think that your life is over, but as long as and some people may not walk again, right? Some people choose to use a wheelchair instead, right? So, but my first message is always, I have an amazing life. I never thought I would have an amazing life again because I had one before, and now it's even better. And I usually, and then ask me questions, right? Um, yeah.
So Laura, you're saying that people, like you have an amazing life. People want to have that same thing. I mean, I want to have an amazing life. How would I get started?
Look within.
Look within. Okay. So what does, yeah,
Because our belief system is either going to make us have an amazing life or make us suffer. It's really about your belief system.
got it. Got it.
The
Yeah.
way you view the world, the way your perception, what you think, what you see. That's what determines happiness.
What else? Anything we're missing that you'd like the amputee community to know or understand as they go through this?
Definitely give the Amputee Coalition a plug because they are a wonderful organization.
Yeah.
I'm a certified peer visitor. I'm a certified support group leader. I'm a certified lead advocate, all through the Amputee Coalition. When I see an amputee, if I'm driving and I see an amputee, I pull over, I get out of the car, and I say, "Hi, my name's
Yeah.
Laura."
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter where I am.
Right.
And are you new? My first question, are you new? And have you heard of the Amputee Coalition?
Right.
Because there's an amazing organization, and having a peer visit was something that changed my life, and every amputee deserves a peer visit. However, hospitals, I've never been called. I've done many, many, many peer visits, but it's always somebody knows somebody that's an amputee and they call me.
Right.
But I've never been called by a hospital or a rehab on Long Island or in New York City, which is extremely unfortunate because people are losing limbs every day.
Yeah.
So, Amputee Coalition is a wonderful organization. Wonderful.
So a couple things there. I know they have a conference once a year and you've spoken at that conference.
I did.
Can you
I
describe?
wasn't like a keynote speaker, but
Yeah,
they had
one of
these
those
little AC talks.
break.
Yeah, yeah. And I spoke about emotional healing.
Okay. Yeah, they're an amazing organization. I can relate to what you're saying because I'm trying to do that myself with Limb Loss Connection. So that's an organization I've started with. I'm trying to reach out to people that have lost, a limb and help them, get them through the whole process from the start to the end. And I'm doing that collaboratively with people like yourself that are doing the podcast. I'm also doing a lot of blogs, and I'll research things and write blogs about them. Have a website if anybody's interested in going to limlossconnection.com. You'll find out a lot more about what I'm trying to do. But I think that brings a lot of value when you do those things to reach out to people. I'm the same as you. When I see somebody who's lost their limb, I go running up to them because I just want to talk to them. I want to hear their story. I want to know that they're okay, and so it's really really interesting, yeah, to do that. Listen, it's been wonderful talking with you, Laura, and I am going to book a couple sessions with you because I really feel like I need it. So look
We
forward to the
all
phone
need it.
call.
We
Yeah,
we all need it. Everyone needs it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So thanks so much for the time you've spent today and your insight. Really, really, really appreciate things.
It was my pleasure, Kevin. I am honored to be here. I'm honored to meet you and to, talk about something that is very meaningful and that, that we can touch someone.
Yeah,
Give someone, give someone some hope.
nice. Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome.
Laura, I can't thank you enough for sharing your space and your story today. You remind us that amputation is not the end, it's a profound transformation. And if we face it with honesty, support, and a willingness to do the work, life after limb loss can not only be meaningful, but beautiful. To everyone listening, whether you're living with limb loss or supporting a loved one, or simply trying to understand what it means to heal, we hope this conversation has helped you feel a little more connected, more inspired, and a little less alone. Until next time, I'm Kevin Gray, and this is The Next Step.